Welcome to Lou's Views with your host, Lou Bozada. Just a regular guy who's honest, unapologetic, and unfiltered. If you're looking for politically incorrect opinions about past, current, and future events, then you're in the right place. Now, here's Lou.
All right. Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well out there. Turn my volume down in my ears so I don't blow my own eardrums out. All right. Everyone can tell we got Chris in here from the Morning Mayhem. Everyone say hello to him. And if you don't follow him, please do so. You can find him on Rumble. And I'll let him do his own pitch here later. He's always welcome to push all of his stuff on our shows because we all kind of help each other. Oh, look, we got all kinds of crazy people in here. Third Railify. Oh, my goodness. George, take care of him, would you? Don't let him get out of hand tonight. Keep him in check. We need somebody to help that boy out. Sean needs a little help. Keep him in line. Keep him in line. All right, everyone. We're going to hit the ground running again. I was doing a lot of thinking today, and I kept thinking to myself, how did I make it this far in life? How did I get to where I'm just to the point where I haven't pulled, my hair out? I haven't done anything stupid. I mean, it's amazing that I've made it this far without ending up dead because of all the things that have happened in my life. And it really amazes you when you think about it. You might go through a breakup in grade school or high school and you're thinking, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world. I love this guy or I love this girl and I'll never find another. And all these crazy things that we go through, we lose parents. Sometimes we lose grandparents. We lose siblings. Sometimes we lose children, unfortunately, but it's all in God's plan. And everybody's thinking, where in the hell is he going with this? Well, I'm going to tell you. Ever since Donald Trump was voted into office as the 47th president, there's been a lot of crazy things going on. And if you look at the House of Representatives, the Congress of the United States, on November 19th, a couple of days ago, the Honorable Antony Blinken, Secretary of State, got a letter from a senior member about some of the things that are going on up in Washington. Now, this was from Darrell Issa. The letter was, who's a member of Congress, for anyone who doesn't know. And we're this letter, the letter was, originated from him, but it was about people who are having issues dealing with Donald Trump becoming our president. And it goes to say that, or on to say that as a senior member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, I write to you regarding reports of official post-election State Department therapy and listening sessions. I am concerned that the department is catering to federal employees who are personally devastated by the normal functioning of American democracy. We do live in a republic. I just want to let everyone know that. Through the provision of government-funded mental health counseling because Kamala Harris was not elected president of the United States.
Instead, is this on official letterhead?
This is for real. Instead, on November 5th, the American people resoundingly elected Donald J. Trump as the 47th president of the United States. A decisive repudiation of 4 years of failed Biden-Harris foreign policy. It is very disturbing that nonpartisan government officials would suffer a personal meltdown over the results of a free and fair election, something the United States champions around the world. And it is unacceptable that the department accommodates this behavior and subsidizes it with taxpayer dollars. You can go online and find this for yourself. I also have an article up here from The Blaze, which I am a subscriber, so I get a lot of good news from them as well. Change is constant in our lives, but it can often bring about stress and uncertainty. We all know this. It's a part of life. You just kind of move on. You deal with it. You think about you lose a loved one as far as a boyfriend or a girlfriend. They go somewhere else. They leave you. We always grew up, hearing the phrase, there's more fish in the sea. And that's what we all said, back in the day. This article here says the U.S. State Department held a therapy session for employees after Donald Trump won the presidential election last week, according to a report from the Washington Free Beacon. The internal State Department email concerned managing stress during change, the outlet said, adding that employees were encouraged to attend a 1-hour session early Friday during which they could share feelings about the election results. Change is a constant in our lives, but it can often bring about stress and uncertainty, the email said, according to the outlet. Join us for an insightful webinar where we delve into effective stress management techniques to help you navigate these challenging times. This session will provide tips and practical strategies for reducing stress and maintaining your well-being. All right, enough of that. Cry sessions, all this kind of stuff. So, I don't know. We'll start off with Gina. What do you think about this craziness that I am reading to you?
I mean, I feel like we're just repeating ourselves over and over. This is insane. Like, I don't understand where the cars fell off the wagon, whole entire ordeal. I mean, I could understand if he only won maybe one, like the electoral or the popular vote. But he won everything. The popular, the electoral, the House. I mean, you name it. It was a clean sweep across the board.
Yeah, but you know, I think the main point for me before I go to Chris is the fact that we talked about this a while back, where I had made the comment that we are raising a generation of weak-minded children, young people, whatever generation they call themselves, and because they can't handle things that happen in life. Everyday life does not stop. The world does not stop turning because of something that happens in our lives. And it's that we're encouraging these people to run to a safe space, to go into a corner and hide and cry and scream and, thrash and all these other things as a way of coping, when we shouldn't be coping like this. We should be saying, hey, we didn't win this one. We lost. Now let's see what we can do moving forward on the next 4 years, or at least 2 years from now, and start looking at the midterms. So again, Chris, tell me what you think about this, and tell me if you agree what I'm saying, that I think we're leaving way too much open for safe spaces for these people. I think we're hurting them more than we're doing any, good.
All right. So kind of a different answer, I guess. I don't know how much of this actually has anything to do with Donald Trump. I feel like, all right, let's step away from this for just a second and look at something else. What is the increase, the percentage increase that we've seen in, be it homosexuality or transgenderism or whatever over the years? It's skyrocketed, right? Mm-hmm. And it skyrocketed for, some may say, okay, I feel more comfortable coming out and all this and that, but a lot of it is just programming. It is manipulate. It is pushing this propaganda. It's pushing this ideology, right? And saying like, this is what you are. This is what you feel a little different. Well, then maybe you're this. Oh, I know you're that. Let's go get you some drugs and some surgery. I mean, it's being pushed and pushed and pushed everywhere, in schools, mainstream media, celebrities, Hollywood. I mean, you name it. It is pushed, and you see that spike just go straight through the roof. Now let's jump back over to the election. It doesn't matter. I don't think if it was Donald Trump, if it was RFK, if it was Nikki Haley, if it was Lou, it doesn't matter. If the forces that be, the powers that be, are out there pushing that propaganda, saying this person is evil, they're like Hitler, they're like Satan, they're a Nazi, they're a fascist, they're going to kill your babies, they're going to kill you, they're going to, and they're throwing all this out there with repetition over and over and over again, and being able to cut to clips, of course, out of context, but show it. And it's like, oh my God, this is for real. This is for real. They must be telling me the truth. They're telling me how I should feel. And I clearly should feel this way because I agree with what they're saying. And that's what I think it is. I think it is, this person is not with us, so we're going to push them out and we're going to push everybody against them however we can. And that it's been a coordinated attack from the jump.
Yeah, well said. And, and that's one of the things that I think I like to focus on the most is that when let's just say we have our children, we bring them up from a very young age, and every time something goes wrong, we teach them to be very unhappy and scream and just, to be an unhappy person, but not to, okay, maybe we should figure out how do we solve this? How do we work around this? How do we conduct ourselves moving forward when you've lost someone in your life that you love or something didn't go your way? Not everyone gets a trophy, first, second, and third place, and you must become better. You must work harder. You must do all of these things if you truly want to progress and excel. And I think that's where we're failing as far as a society as a whole. But I do agree with you 1,000%. It didn't matter who was elected. They're gonna do this. And, again, whether it was BLM, Antifa, we're seeing all kinds of stuff like this. If things just don't go the way you want, it's okay to go out and tear up the country, your cities. It's okay to damage yourselves, drugs, alcohol, violence, whatever it is. That's the norm anymore. It's quite the opposite than what we grew up with, or at least I grew up with. It was time to, what can I do to make this better? Or, if we lost someone, say, through death, the best thing to do is you take a couple of days off, you mourn. But then the best medicine for all of that was always go back to work. Keep yourself busy. Don't give up and don't be mad at everybody and go out and destroy anything and everything that, in your power. Staying busy, idle hands are just not good, and that's just a way of saying that. Stay busy, keep working hard, stay focused, because we all have to die. Things are going to happen. We're always not going to get the president that we want. I mean, I didn't lose it when Biden was installed. I didn't lose it when Clinton's won or Obama did for two straight terms. I'm still here. I'm still healthy, so yeah, I came across that story and I'm like, oh my gosh. I said, I got to add this to, we'll start out with this because it just totally blew me away. And this isn't the first story we've heard about like this. Well, we've heard several stories where things just weren't going their way. And it's like, it's always the sky is falling, the world's coming to an end. Things are not good and things are never going to be the same again and blah, blah, blah. And it's just on and on. And it really is a shame. These people need to wake up. You need to seek professional help, in my opinion, in many cases, because they do take this way too far. And I blame the media. I blame their family members. I blame their peers, but more so than anything, mainstream media, because people are transfixed on what they see on the TV screen and they believe it as if it's the gospel. And it's pretty crazy when you really think about it. So, Sean said no human being was ever designed to put up with the relentless, unstoppable force of propaganda being jackhammered into their head 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Yeah. It's like, the Japanese or whoever, they tie your head down in a position and the water goes drip, drip, drip on your forehead constantly. Eventually it'll drive you mad, or you hear a certain sound for extended lengths of time, or light if you're exposed to bright lights. All of that's torture. So yeah, perfect example. Well said. He also said, I partially disagree with Lou here because they are pussies. They are also up against the most powerful weapon the world has ever seen, and that is modern weaponized propaganda. Yeah, but see, that's where I differ a little bit than most people. I think it's from the time that I was, that we were taught to be a little bit stronger in the head, to have more willpower and to fight back against stuff like that. And people might say, well, I don't believe that's true, but I really do. I don't know if Joe's in here or not, but we were taught growing up by our parents, our grandparents, hard work, keep pushing forward. Don't let these things get you down because life goes on. There's other fish in the sea, all these different examples. So, and you have to be a critical thinker. You have to be able to think for yourself. And again, I think it goes back to the upbringing, your belief, your faith. All of these things lead you to be a stronger person, because I could turn around and say, well, I see a lot of evil in the world, so I'm going to succumb to it. And I'm going to become like that, but I won't, because I know that there's more good out there And if there's not, I can still be that good and I can still seek to do the right thing. So again, I think it's all willpower. I think it's how strong you are as a person. But again, not worth arguing about, but definitely that's how I see life. But anyway, go ahead, Gina.
I was just laughing at what Monkey said.
Yeah.
But
What'd he say?
He said, I don't know, Lou. Tammy told me when the meat puppet got installed, you drank blackout till you started running around the block screaming that you didn't handle it well at all, Lou.
The meat puppet. What's the meat puppet?
Biden?
Biden.
I would presume.
Oh, okay. Yeah. See, I mean, I have to catch up with it. That's language I can't even comprehend until somebody explains it to me. Yeah, I'm like, what is that? I know the blackout coffee though. All right, Gen X, enough said. There you go. All right. Raised a latchkey kid. You learn to raise yourself quick. Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. I just think it was more the wife's laughing. I just think it was more along the lines of the way we were raised. I'm not saying it was the right way always, but you know, grew up in a very strict house. And I heard Chris saying something about this on a show today, but I'm going a different direction with it. When we would sit at the table, or if we were around a group of adults, it was don't speak unless you're spoken to. Keep your elbows off the table while you're eating. No farting, no belching. All of these strict things that nowadays, like, you know, we laugh about it sometimes. And I'm a lot more lenient than my father was, but it was very strict and very serious around the dinner table. So again, we came from a different era where things were a lot more serious, and we just, as I said, we were more headstrong and very strong-willed people for the most part. So, and I think we're losing that with each generation. I think it gets weaker, it gets diluted, maybe, if that's the better way to say it. That's kind of how I see it. But again, that doesn't mean I'm right. That's just my humble opinion. So, but anyway, any more on that one, Chris, that you'd like to add?
No, just I think, you know, you got the propaganda piece of it. You've got, like you said, I mean, just the way people are in society now. It's almost again kind of glamorized to do the things like the Black Lives Matter. Oh, you're unhappy, it's okay to call out of work. You're unhappy, it's okay to burn down a city. Oh, you're unhappy, you know, people aren't held accountable anymore, and they're allowed to act like children. And until we get like back to the show from today, until, you know, daddy's back and he's laying down the law, and it's like, look, if you burn down a city, you're going to jail. You know, if you break the law, you're going to be punished. Act right, you know, F around and find out. So I think it's time to bring that back to the table. And that's not even going as, like you said, maybe as strict as things were back in the day. But I mean, that was kind of an unsaid rule back in the day too. Like, you know, if my dad used to say, if you're going to be stupid, you got to be tough. You know, that's kind of the same kind of thing, right? But yeah, no, we've bred a society now where people complain about the little things, you know, like, oh man, I don't get to work from home. Well, no, that's kind of a new thing, you know. Like every little thing. I mean, we have been society has kind of adjusted and adapted to modern technology, which is a wonderful thing. But because of that, it's allowed us, I think, to let the you know, take the foot off the gas, so to speak, with that drive and everything, like you're saying, that drive, that discipline, that focus, that almost stubbornness, not to let these outside forces influence you so much. And I think social media has played probably the biggest part of that aspect of it. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it has to do a lot with multiple different things. And a lot of it is just kind of how we've adapted as a society.
Yeah. And look, you know, we didn't even touch on this on just now, any of us actually, but we touched on it a couple shows ago. Remember, right after he was, you know, elected to be the 47th president, we had brought up on one of the shows that some of the colleges had given the students time off, days off, to walk away so that they could get over this. And I even commented then, we just didn't go in you know, quite into detail like we had with our thoughts and everything. But when you have professors at colleges doing this to, you know, these young people, what are you telling them? You're raising a generation of wuss bags. And this is exactly because they're going to take this into the rest of their life. They're going to think that this is a norm and this is how I should act. And then they're going to teach their kids that. And again, as I said earlier, each passing generation It's just going to get weaker. Now, my kids already talk with a conservative leaning. They're like tonight, we turned on the 5 at dinner, we talk and then we listen. And, my boy, he's like, Louis, the little one, he's like, so they're not talking politics tonight, because all they wanted to talk about was a Christmas tree, and they were talking about Jesus, and Cardinal Dolan was there. And if anyone didn't watch it, and they lit the tree and all that. So it wasn't the normal 5 show that we're accustomed to watching. But that gives you an idea of what they're used to us talking about and the things that we talk about. Then the oldest, she comes in and says, well, how do we know what the world's going to be like when Jesus comes back? And why won't I be hungry? And why won't I be suffering? And we have to explain that these are the things that all these things will be erased, during that time. There won't be any suffering and sadness and blah, blah, blah. So our conversations are totally different than, oh, well, Kamala Harris lost. Let everybody go to their bedrooms for a week. We'll figure out a way to get past this. I think everyone gets what we're saying here. So it's pretty sad, actually.
Yep.
All right, we're going to move on here. Us Gen Xers are a different breed. I'm a boomer. I am a boomer. And so is Joe. So we're boomers.
I don't even know what I am. I'm like in that weird cusp.
Ooh. That's a word, cusp. Wow.
I think I've heard them call us Zennials, like between Gen X and millennials. We're not quite a Gen Xer, and we're definitely not a millennial. Because you, me, and Sean, we're all the exact same age, and I think we were right there at that transitional point where we didn't grow up with all this technology, but we got it about middle school, high school on up, something like that. We started really, and it blew up. So that's a big separation of the generations. And we were kind of right in the mix of that. So we are a little odd little mix of, of some kind of mud or something. I don't know.
Heinz 57. There you go. Hey, Leah, I'm glad you could join us, Leah. Thank you. And glad to have you in here. I'm going back here real quick before we move to the next one. George had said, seeing how the pussies were raised and can't take the rough stuff at all makes you shake your head. And that's another thing too. Growing up, and we talked about this recently with Kels, the football player, but they call it Kelsey. But anyway, when that kid was calling his brother, who dates Taylor Swift, calling him a faggot, all kinds of stuff. Mm-hmm. And so he gets mad. He grabs his phone and throws it to the ground and smashes it. And then he starts calling him the same thing. So a grown man, going after a kid, so to speak, and doing all that. When I was younger, 9 times out of 10, if someone said something like that, we just kind of give them the cross look like, really, dude? And then we would just go on about our way. The only time that it would come to fisticuffs, is what we would say, would be if they kept pushing it and come up from behind you. Then you're going to co-cock them. You're going to give them a black eye or bust their nose. And usually once you get them down, you make them cry uncle, and then you let them up and it's done. Nowadays, they stab each other, shoot each other, and it's a fight truly to the death, and they don't respect life in any way or form. Now, if you got an ass whooping coming, back in the day, you had to do a lot, and you would get one. And then you'd learn your lesson, hopefully. But if not, then you're the bully. You're gonna learn a lot of hard lessons over time. But that's to me a huge change now, because now they'll fight about anything. Oh, you looked at me funny. Oh, let's and it's like, and you shoot each other dead, or you shoot each other over a bag of weed or some shoes or something. It's like, I don't know. We were watching the first 48. We watch it every night, the new season. And I look at some of these people losing their lives in their 20s, and, Atlanta and Alabama and all these, Mobile, Alabama, and St. Louis is on there now, my state of Missouri. And I look at, and then how do these kids lose their lives over something like this? Where's their parents? What is going on? It's sad and it's crazy all at the same time. So, times have changed, and I road rage, anything like that. I let everything go now, because I can't react the way I used to back in the day, because I'll end up dead. Somebody's going to fill our car or truck up with a bunch of bullets. And what did I prove? What's sad is the ones that follow the radicals. When things don't go their way, they get taught to self-hurt, whether it's shaving heads or going around nude screaming until they go hoarse, hit themselves, etc. Yeah. That whole shaving the head thing is kind of crazy too. But and then since we got, sidetracked here and off the rails, so to speak, what about all these people that are leaving the country? I mean, they're seriously leaving now. It's no longer a meme. Richard Gere, Ellen DeGeneres, and who else is there? Couple of them. They're all leaving now. They're literally going over to Europe and different places. And I'm like, I don't know what you think you're going to find. Ellen went to Great Britain or the UK. But that's pretty crazy over there when you think about it. So
Epstein.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. There's a lot of that going around. People saying, well, it's because of that. And it could be, but the reach, I mean, if they really want you, they're going to go after you. Just like they did the Nazis, that were there were a couple of those German soldiers that were still around from the concentration camps here just in probably the past 10 or 15 years. They went and got those people once they found, where they were at. They hunted them down in South American places. But if there's something really going on like that, these people can't run. You can't hide. And to leave a country that has afforded you to be a millionaire or a billionaire, come on, you people are sick. If you think that you're going to go anywhere else better than what is right here. So
maybe their following will follow them that way. Oh, Ellen finally did it. Maybe we should all go.
That's right. I'm not going anywhere. This is my country.
Her following.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
The like-minded people.
Yeah. Leah said, yeah, it's people basically regressing to acting like petulant children who don't get their way. They react first and think later. Yeah. And when you live by that motto, Leah, that's what gets you in trouble. If you don't think things through and you say it or you react to it, now you got yourself in a really bad position, because for every action, there's a reaction. And we all know it's the same thing continuously. It just ripples across the water. And you can't stop it. So, and this is a perfect segue into people who think that the United States is so bad. So we're going to jump into this 58 seconds of Jasmine Crockett talking about oppression. Everybody check this out. You're going to love it. She is such a wonderful person. She really is. She's beautiful. She's a beautiful person inside and out.
It's because you can then misuse words like oppression. There has been no oppression for the white man in this country. You tell me which white men were dragged out of their homes. You tell me which one of them got dragged all the way across an ocean and told that you are going to go and work. We are going to steal your wives. We are going to rape your wives. That didn't happen. That is oppression. We didn't ask to be here. We're not the same migrants that y'all constantly come up against. We didn't run away from home. We were stolen. So yeah, we are going to sit here and be offended when you want to sit here and act like, and don't let it escape you that it is white men on this side of the aisle telling us, people of color on this side of the aisle, that y'all are the ones being oppressed, that y'all are the ones that are being harmed.
Woo! Yeah, she's and let's be fair here. I don't know the exact beginning of that, but she was responding to someone who was talking about the white man, or I guess a white man congressman was speaking and saying something about oppression regarding something else. And then she went off onto that tantrum or rant. Very hateful, bigoted person, racist. She's not the only one. There's one, the Cori Bush, that got voted out, which was from the state of Missouri. She is just like her. And I've talked about her before, and I can say this because I know the area. I guess it would be, like Chris saying, hey, I know a lot about the Atlanta and Fulton County area and stuff. Well, if you get up around St. Louis and St. Louis City, North St. Louis is where all the shootings go, the carjackings, all the crime, all the drugs, and it's predominantly black neighborhoods. And then you get into East St. Louis, which is just across the river into Illinois, and that's really bad. But the bottom line is she's from these districts in St. Louis, in these surrounding counties that are suburbs of St. Louis. Like we have St. George, which they call it St. Louis City, but it's it's its own little township. So the bottom line is she's part of this. She came from this. She went to a really good school. Cori Bush did, and a lot of these, Congress women did. But I don't know what they learned, and I don't know. They must have just pushed these people through, because when you go through a pretty prominent school, I would expect that you would talk accordingly, speak accordingly, however you want to say that. You're going to have some common sense. And I don't know. You just don't see any of this stuff from these people. So it tells you they were pushed through just to get them to pass and get them out of school and make room for the other ones that are going to fail and you're going to push through. But she comes from the hood, and it shows. And that's not a dig. There's a lot of people who live in the poor neighborhoods and the poor sectors of St. Louis, in every city or country or little town, or, I meant to say state, not country, all over this great nation of ours. And they make something of themselves. But it's that drive that I spoke about earlier. It's what you want and how you escape and how you get away from that. You have to want this. And we're not going to get into all the slavery, but there were so many aspects of slavery that were really sad, that their own people sold them for alcohol and different things over there on that continent, when it was mostly the Spanish, the Portuguese. It wasn't just the white people from England. In many cases, those people helped and fought some of those ships that were coming over with them, slaves. But again, that's a long history going way back. None of these people are African Americans. I hate that term. They're Americans. They're Black Americans. And I've always said that if you come directly from Africa and you were brought over recently on a ship and you were a slave and you've just escaped, now I want to hear what you have to say. But when you're this far removed, no, there's nothing going on there. So again, these are just hateful people that we have to deal with, and it's throughout our government. It's not just her. It's not just the Black women. I mean, we got AOC. We got, you look at some of these other people like Adam Schiff. They're all in the same boat. I put them in the same group, all of these people. So Adam Kinzinger, they're trash. Go ahead, Gina.
Unless you're like in the 1% or the government, aren't we all oppressed? I mean, none of us are making enough money. We're not affording to live. We work not even 9 to 5 anymore. It's hours and hours and hours. I mean, we're competing for sleep and home life. We're all oppressed, and we all should be pissed, and we all should be screaming for answers, not one side against the other. Yep.
And George said she's a rich hood rat. Leah said we have ancestors on my dad's side who fought for the Confederacy. So we kept the slaves. I'm French, Irish, and Italian in that order. What does that make me? Oh, you're definitely a Heinz 57. Mm-hmm. You're like somebody just dumped you in a bowl and mixed you up.
Only the top 3. There's a whole other list.
Yeah. Elon Musk is an African American. So, I mean, he's South African, but it's still African. I mean, he's from the African continent, so that makes him African. But I think everybody knew that. And then the Irish were slaves for 800 years. We forget about the Jews in Egypt. So again, we could go on and on about, oppression, and you get back into biblical times, and, there was a lot of things that went on that God let happen. So again, that's another topic for another day. A lot of people get upset when you say certain things like this, but read your Bible if you believe, and read some of the stories, how they were, for 40 years and all this other stuff that's out there. Just go look at the stories. And sometimes it was done for a punishment. Sometimes it was done to prove a point because, whatever. So there's a lot of stuff going on there, but I don't know that anybody, my ancestors, Mexicans, that came from Cuba and Mexico. Well, what do you think? Those were Indians down in those places, the Aztecs and the Incas. And then the Spaniards came over and mixed with them and probably took them as slaves, and then mixed with their wives or their women and had babies. And then that's where you think Mexicans come from.
Hey, I'm 2% from Spain.
Well, there you go. See, we've all had issues. So Yeah, you definitely got issues. So nobody's arguing that point.
Well, here's something I was going to say. You mentioned biblical times, and I was thinking about back what you were saying earlier. Sometimes things are just God's plan.
Yep.
You know, if you look at, you know, this was specifically what she's referencing is what we are taught in schools is the African slave trade. Like people were pointing out, other people have been slaves, other groups of people, and everything like that. And of course, not every black person that's ever lived in this country is descendant from a slave. Not everyone that lived back then was a slave. The first slave owners here were black, from my understanding. You know, we can get into all that, but you think about the families that were brought over here, as tragic as that was at the time, and as heartbreaking as that is, that we have that stain on us as a nation, I think. You know, and we can look back and say, man, I hate that we did that. It's just despicable. Think about the ones that didn't get brought over here. Where are they at now? There's still slavery over there today. There's still slavery, raping, murdering, you know, so on and so forth that's going over there today, versus the offsprings, you know, their great grandchildren that are over here now because of the hardships that they went through at the time. Now they get to sit on Congress and bitch and moan about oppression. You know, it's again, it's always something that's tough to say, where it's like, you know, this evil thing allowed this good thing to happen for people, but that is sometimes how it works out. Sometimes when you look at life, you can look at something that was really awful that happened, and then something that positive that came out of it.
Yeah.
But you're the devil if you talk about that bad thing as being a net positive. Like, what was it in Florida? There was some books that says something they learn farming skills and crop and all this and that. It's like, oh, well, we can't say that. But they did when they were slaves and they were working. They did learn these skills. So when they were free, they had these skills that people didn't have. But you can't say that. You're making people are so sensitive about it. You can't have an honest conversation.
They think that we're minimalizing it to where it's like, oh, well, it was okay. Look, you learned something. No, we're not saying that. We're just saying that you did learn you learned to read and write in many cases when some people weren't supposed to teach you. You learned how to grow food to support yourself once you were freed or escaped, whatever the case was. So Joe said, yeah, I do this to Joe a lot. Lou, you got me on your comment. You know, I got a problem with satire. Geez. He never knows when I'm being serious sometimes, you know, when I'm playing around, he's like, or something. And then my wife said, we didn't ask to be here. Now she's going back to Jasmine Crockett. So why don't you go back to why don't she go back to where she came from then? And that's a good point, because, you know, it's really sad because we have a lot of conversations like this. And I can just go back to one of the shows not too long ago that I had made the comment that, and Chris just touched on it, and I'll go there first. Jasmine Crockett's setting up there in Congress. Okay. She's high up in the political world in Washington, D.C. Okay. The capital of our country. How did she get that far as a black woman? How did Oprah Winfrey become a billionaire? How did Michael Jordan become one of the greatest basketball players ever, and a millionaire or a billionaire? And now he's an owner with Denny Hamlin in NASCAR.
Lou, we can't talk about stuff like that.
Yeah. Mike Tyson, how did he make his millions? And all these other black people, Denzel Washington, who I love as an actor, Morgan Freeman, another one of my favorites. I love those guys in the movies that they play in. But again, how did that even happen in a racist country where you were so oppressed? The only thing oppressed is you yourself oppressing yourself because you keep yourself on that plantation. It's all up here. It's all in your head. Nobody's going to stop you. There's more good people like us on this show and people in the chat that are, you know, engaging with us, because if you come into our world, I don't have a problem with your skin color. I don't have a problem with you being successful. I encourage you to do so, because that's what we should all be striving for. But the moment that you think that everyone is trying to oppress you, now you have become a victim to yourself and to all of these lies that you are spewing out there. And you're never going to get over it. You're going to be that hood rat that everyone keeps calling you, and you're never going to be any better than what you are. I can't help you. If that's the way you're going to be, then nobody can help you. You have to be able to get out of this. So
I bet you too, she's the first one in a relationship. If something goes down, and she would scream at her significant other and say, well, that was in the past. Why are you going to bring that up again?
yeah, probably. Leah said, my boyfriend is part Native American, and he said that his tribe were total animals. Yeah, there were some extremely violent tribes out there. And that's another thing that you hear a lot of people say, oh, depending on, whether it was the Sioux, the Apache, or the Cherokee, whoever, that, oh, when they came over, the white man decimated them and destroyed them. And do you not think that there were warring factions between these different tribes? Come on, people. I mean, they were fighting over horses, women, land, buffalo, bison, whatever you want to call them. They fought over the same things that we fight over sometimes. So don't ever let people think or, try to get you to believe that the American Indians here, on the United States, in our area, our states, especially up, like I said, the Sioux, the Apache, these people, they were brutal if they wanted to be. I mean, you can go back and read history where they took your entrails out your stomach and wrapped them around you because people don't realize how much they're actually in you. They did some pretty horrific things to people, and then to the other people from other tribes, from warring tribes. So yeah, we don't want to get into that because we all have some history. So there's no doubt about that. All right, we're going to move on to the next one here. Oh man, this one's really got me. We talked about this. I had to touch on it again. Everyone remember on the last show, we talked about Sarah McBride. That one that's actually Tim McBride. Okay, so I found something that was from BuzzFeed News. This trans woman posted a selfie to challenge North Carolina's bathroom law. So I don't know if anyone saw that or not. We're all just people trying to pee in peace is what the... That's kind of funny, actually, but everyone's trying to pee in peace. I'm going to go pee in peace.
I haven't peed in
but
peace
anyway,
in 19 years.
Yeah, Tim McBride. We're going to say it the right way. Tim McBride, a 25-year-old person who thinks he's transgender, recently found himself. I got to change all these words. I'm sorry. It's tough sometimes. In the place that become the epicenter of trans rights, the bathroom. And bathrooms in North Carolina have become a lightning rod for transgender rights across the country with the passing of HB 2, a law that in part requires people to use only public bathrooms that correspond with the sex they are assigned at birth. He was traveling through North Carolina in his role as the communications manager for LGBT Progress at American Progress to elevate the voices of trans people who had been impacted by the law when he had to use the bathroom. After a meeting Thursday morning at the Mecklenburg Government Center, after days of hearing the stories of trans people in the state, McBride told BuzzFeed News that he decided to take a simple action to challenge the law. So this is on Instagram. Takes a picture of himself in there, looking all like a woman, with the stalls in the background, if you haven't seen this. And he posts this. Here, I am using a woman's restroom in North Carolina that I'm technically barred from being in, he writes in a photo caption directly from women's restroom at the government center. They say accepting me as the person I have fought my life to be seen as reflects. Let me start over. That one didn't come out right. Or either they didn't put it right. It says, they say accepting me as the person I have fought my life to be seen as reflects the downfall of a once great nation, he writes. He lists some of the terms that underscore the mounting hysteria around transgender women who use the women's restroom: pervert, man dressed as a woman, a threat to children, confused and dangerous. I'm just a person, he writes. We are all just people trying to pee in peace. So my point here is that everyone was making a big deal out of Nancy Mace, saying that she was seeking attention, when it's very clear on his Instagram that he's posting that, look, I'm in a woman's restroom and he shouldn't be in there because he's a dude. So who's really looking for attention? Is it Tim McBride, who calls himself Sarah McBride, or was it Nancy Mace? And if you go back to what I said on the show, this is one of those things that we need to nip in the bud right now. Let's not let it go any further because it ends up being much more than what it is now. So it's pretty obvious that now's the time to nip this from the root and just be done with it and call it out for what it is and not give in to these people. So that's where I stand on this.
Some sort of, shouldn't there be some sort of discipline? I mean, he blatantly said he broke the law.
Yeah, but people are afraid to do anything to them because of what they say they are. And as soon as they try to do something to him, then he's going to scream, look, they're transphobic, they're this, they're that. And then those people are afraid that people are going to speak out against them. So you have to be, and I'm not patting myself on the back by any means, but you have to be pretty strong willed and to know who you are as a person so that you can stand up for the right things at the right time and not cower down when people call you out, or at least they think they are. If you stand for the truth, that's all that matters. And that's all I'm doing. I'm calling a dude out who's a dude. He was born, he's a biological male. He has no business being in a women's bathroom. None whatsoever. So again, to answer your question, they're not going to because they're afraid of the repercussions of what other people will say about them. And it's a very small portion of society that will come out and say these things, but people think it's the end of the world. They think it's a lot more than what it really is. Again, we're talking about 0.01% of the population thinks that this is okay. And no, we're not going to back down. We're not going to cower down to these people. But I thought that this was maybe, Chris, if you have any comments, go ahead. But I just thought we'd touch on this one more time because I came across that posting that someone put out there. And I thought, wow, and everyone's saying that it's Nancy Mace that is the one that's trying to stir up the trouble. But yet this has already happened in the past. So it looks like she's like right over the target on this one.
Yeah, it's just those people all the time that are drama queens. They want the attention. And again, I think that's a product of our environment. That dopamine hit. Let me post on my Instagram. Let me post on my X. Let me post on my Blue Sky now. It's that instant dopamine hit. Like, look at me, look at me, look at me. I'm the victim. I'm the victim. Let me play victim. The craziest thing about that story is that he's only 25. I thought he was older. So even the makeup ain't doing good for you, honey. But I'm just saying.
Whoa, he was swinging that thing.
I'm just saying.
I love it.
But it's always them stirring things up, and like I think it was George saying, I mean, if you got the hardware, use the right bathroom. It's not that difficult. But they just want to. They just want the attention. They crave the attention. They want it about them. Again, not to get too deep with the spiritual thing, but Satan wants us to be our own gods. It's all about us, me. And that's how we become as a society, focused on me and how much I can get, how much attention I can get, how much love I can get, how much likes and follows and everything I can get. Me. Yeah. And I mean that group of people are some of the biggest victims of that whole mentality right now.
Absolutely. And here's a clip. If anyone wants to go watch this, I'm going to play just a few seconds of it, or maybe a minute, and then I'm going to stop. It's like 4 minutes long. But this is him talking, and he's interviewing someone who doesn't see eye to eye with him on this. But you can tell by the way he talks and everything that what type of person we're dealing with here. And then we're going to move on from this. But again, if you want to just go to X, you can find this whole 4 minute and 23 second clip. You can hear the whole thing in its entirety, but check this out.
The motive, the stated motive behind this legislation is to address a perceived competitive advantage within women and girls sports. One of the most significant competitive disparities that exists is based on family wealth and those who can afford private coaching and those who can't. And so I'm curious, this legislation does not forbid private coaching, correct?
This legislation is aimed at fairness in women's sports. It's to protect women's sports and to protect women against injuries and protect them from losing opportunities for scholarships.
Okay. So to that comment and to some of the comments that were made before, my understanding is that y'all are particularly concerned with a perceived biological or physiological advantage some students may have. So I'm correct that this legislation does not forbid competition between taller and shorter girls in basketball, correct? This legislation doesn't forbid competition, for instance, between girls with different cardiovascular capacities, correct?
No, absolutely not. No.
Okay, so the only difference between students of the same gender identity that this legislation singles out for exclusion is based on a student's sex marker on their original birth certificate, which specifically singles out those who are transgender.
No, it singles out biological males and separates them out of the equation as far as who's allowed to participate in female sports.
Right, but cisgender students can participate on the teams of their gender identity because their gender marker matches their gender identity matches their sex assigned at birth. Transgender students can't participate on school sports consistent with their gender identity because their marker on their birth certificate does not match their gender identity, right? And the courts have consistently held.
Okay, I can't take any more of that. You can see, yeah, you can see how they. But I wanted to get to the point where he's really twisting the words, and he's using cisgender, which there's only male and female. We talk about this all the time. Let's be real. Nobody in here can tell me that they've seen anything else but a boy or girl ever be born. And then they start talking about, well, as far as, so now you're going to say, well, they have different cardiovascular, all these different things. No, come on, bonehead. Listen to what we're saying. We don't want a biological man going up playing sports with a biological woman. They are stronger in most cases. Yeah, there's some people out there that we would call wimps. I've seen women whoop up on a dude pretty well. It does happen, but it's very far in between. And if a man really wants to, who's, he's an alpha male, let's just say he's not a beta, he's going to whoop you up pretty bad as a female. So they just have no place in those sports. And this is what these people do. They take it and they twist it. They try to make you look like the person who is not all together in your head. And it's just it's the deceive and deception rule is what's happening here. And man, I'll tell you what, if I was sitting across from him and didn't know him from, I hate to even use this, but Adam or Eve, I'd be like, something wrong with your voice, your throat, something, because man, that was very manly. And just by looking at it, I sensed something. No, yeah, that's just not good. Not good at all. So, Gina, before we move on, you have anything? Besides how good looking he was? I'm sorry, I had to. You was hot, baby. You was hot shot. Woo!
You always know me, Lou. I'm just,
Chris, I know Chris is wanting to say something. I mean, Chris is.
Well, she was supposed to say, go ahead, Gina.
Go ahead.
I think it was just to come back.
It all to either end or just, I feel like it's just one big comedy skit. Like,
oh my gosh.
Like this is just one big SNL stage. Like, guys, look over here. Don't look over here.
Yeah, it is.
Like Trump's dance, look at this hand, look at this hand, look at this hand.
There you go.
We can all do that.
Yeah.
Right.
He kept it simple. It's a lot less complex than the Macarena. Thank you, Trump.
Yes, absolutely.
The thing that the left is really good at doing, if you allow them to do it, is to twist the words, like you're saying, to use the vocabulary to manipulate that. I won't say out of context, but just twist the definition of words or the words you're using, the literal words you're using. They will twist and manipulate those and leave out words. So the right hates immigrants. That is what they will tell you. They don't want immigrants. Trump wants to get rid of immigrants, and they will paint a picture of immigrants, migrants. It's illegal immigrants. They will always leave off the illegal part. They do that intentionally. It's a play on words. Just like with this dude, Okay, so just because it's marked on their birth certificate, no, because their DNA says they are a biological freaking dude. They need to play with the dudes. And if they get their ass kicked, so be it. They're in the competition with the dudes. They're in the right category. Ladies are going to play with the ladies. It doesn't matter. It's just a marking on the, it's an accurate label on their birth certificate from the doctor who has identified them as their proper biological sex. That little mark, you can call it a little mark, but it is very significant to who that person is, significantly more than whether they like pizza or not, or whether they like boys or girls. It is who they are internally, biologically, that cannot be changed.
The XY chromosome. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is, and it's not going to change. And I would go after any doctor that get, a doctor that's given birth and, over hundreds or thousands in their lifetime, OBGYN, that, okay, how many have you seen that were born with a penis that you identified as, you've had a beautiful daughter. What's that thing sticking up? I don't know, but you got a beautiful daughter. It doesn't happen. Come on, people. You have to be sick in the head to even play this game. You really do. And you need to get over it. It's really sad. I was trying to go back. I was reading through the comments as you were, Sean said, damn you, Lude, you will recognize that I am two-spirit.
Yeah.
And then Francis said, he's a Looney Tune. Yeah, he's a Looney Tune. And that wasn't why I put that up there. I'm just coming up with something stupid and funny all the time, but it kind of fit right in.
It fit that though. Yeah.
Hearing the phrase gender identity would have been it for me, said Leah. My wife said, freedom. Leah, where have you been? Eating dinner. I've been listening. It's criminal, illegal aliens. Chris saying Macarena is the new theater.
She likes it when I say theater.
Theater.
I say theater. He says theater. I say theater. So
I said theater.
A theater.
It could be like theater.
That's a little sexual. I'm going to stay away from that one. I know.
Yeah. It's apparently it's something. I don't know.
Jordan says had to take the headphones off for that last bit.
I heard that.
All right. So I found something else that I thought was interesting too. CDC, we're jumping, we're shifting gears here just for a short period of time. This is from the Epoch or the Epic Times. CDC is warns of a coming increase in COVID and flu cases, and they are promoting vaccines.
Shocking.
Yeah, it says the U.S. Centers for Disease Control. Man, I can't wait for this new administration to get in there and make some changes. But anyway, the CDC on Wednesday warned about an expected increase in COVID-19 influenza and RSV in the coming months, although levels for those respiratory viruses are currently low. But the agency said there are signs of increased activity for RSV, or respiratory syncytial virus, in southern and eastern states, namely in younger children. Seasonal flu levels are also highly trending upward, the CDC added. For COVID-19, the federal agency's data show that levels of the virus are currently low across the United States. There is currently only one state, New Mexico, that has very high reported levels of COVID-19, while Montana, South Dakota, one of my favorite states of all, and Wyoming are reporting high levels according to the CDC's 19 wastewater map. So in other words, we got people out there walking around in boots, waders, picking stuff up out of your waste, your poop water, and they're testing it and saying, oh my gosh, there's all kinds of stuff in here. Well, duh. So anyway, the CDC said it expects hospitalizations from COVID-19, the flu, and RSV to begin increasing in the coming weeks and months, urging people to get vaccines, the clot shot, for the illnesses. As of October 5th, 11.2% of adults aged 18 years or above received an updated COVID-19 vaccine, and 36.9% of adults 75 years or older received an RSV shot, according to the CDC data. Not going to say any more on that article. Anyone who subscribes to the Epic Times. If you don't, I don't even know what it costs. I can't remember. It's not very expensive, but man, they got some really, really good articles. You can also watch videos, documentaries, all kinds of stuff on there if you're inclined to do that. The one thing I will say about all of this stuff, for those of you out there who can, this will probably get us a slap or get me some portion of this show taken down off of YouTube, but here we go. Take high doses of the real vitamin C. And I'm not talking about the stuff you buy in the store. You can order it online. The top grade powder vitamin C, take it with some kind of a drink and make sure that you get your levels up. Prepare yourself, get some ivermectin if you don't have heart issues or other things that would keep you from taking it. But definitely start eating better, exercise, and make sure that you have vitamin A as well, which is really hard to get, your vitamin D, your Bs, all of these vitamins. You can go to any good site and it's going to tell you all of the supplements and the things that you can do to increase your war on COVID and RSV, because all of these are viruses that ivermectin does work on. It will eliminate that, as they call it, a little mule, like a little backpack on this mule. It's going to keep it from infecting your cells. And that's what you need to happen. So again, go do your own research. Don't take my word for it, because as I said, they're going to censor me on this anyway. The war on ivermectin behind me, the medicine that saved millions and could have ended the pandemic. If you haven't read that, go to your library. I don't get anything for it. Dr. Pierre, Corey, read it yourself. It's pretty funny, actually, but a lot of great information in there. So prepare yourselves is all I'm telling you. And to be quite honest, COVID isn't what it was, made out to be in the first place. A lot of the stuff that happened, they caused because of how they told people to handle it and what they told them to do and not to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all wrong. So as we're finding out now, pretty crazy. But yeah, I have I take this immunity stuff from my go-to stack, which is vitamin D3, quercetin, zinc, vitamin C, bromelain, and vitamin K2. All of these things you have to have them together so that they get into your body and helps break down all the other ones. So they all kind of work together. But again, do your research and just stay healthy. That's the main thing. And eat well and exercise, and you should be fine. Shouldn't have to worry about this. It's going to be like a cold someday. But anyway, I'm not a doctor, so that's my disclaimer. I'm just telling you everything that I have studied, researched, and learned, and we're all healthy, and this is what we do. So I encourage you to research and verify it for yourself, and then make the appropriate adjustments that you feel necessary for you and your family. So
and
the main thing is you're safe. Go ahead. Sorry.
And I was just going to add to that. And ladies, I heard that vitamin D3 is an excellent vitamin to take to to prevent breast cancer. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of that, I don't know if I can find it in here or not before we get to our last story. But there was something, I believe it was on the Epic Times, and I can't remember. I don't think it was breast cancer, but they're saying high doses of vitamin C was good for something else. Let me see if I can find it real quick while we're sitting here. Gina, you have anything to add to any of this while I'm looking for this information? High dose?
Honestly.
Nothing? You mean you for the first time in your life, you have nothing to say? Oh, you got to be kidding me. Come on. Seriously? Fine. Be that way. Okay.
No. But it's 'tis the season. I mean, my kid shares everything, including her sneezes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're all close contact. They're not all outside at recess, because if it gets below a certain temperature, I'm like, don't you think the kids up in like Alaska or Canada don't have recess because it's cold outside? Like, bundle them up and ship them outside. My gosh.
Yeah, speaking of that, that was an old wives' tale that my grandma used to tell us. And then my mother told us, she's like, you better put your coat on. You're going to go outside and catch a cold. You can't catch a cold like that. Again,
Or
it's
with
a
a warhead.
wives' tale. That's a Southern phrase for it's nonsense. They told you that to make you put a coat on so that you wouldn't freeze your tootsies off, or you wouldn't come in with red or black fingertips or toe tips. Just like they told us, well, when you go to school, since we were poor growing up, and we did walk to school in the snow, sometimes a mile or
Uphill
two,
both
wasn't like
ways.
20 miles, but we would take bread bags after the bread was eaten. We'd put them
Hey.
over our feet and then down in our boots to keep the water off of our feet.
We used to save our Wonder bags all the time.
There you go. Yeah. See, there you go.
I still do it with my kids.
Y'all
Except
learn.
I still do it.
All right, I found it. High dose vitamin C doubles pancreatic cancer patient survival rates. Clinical trials. Life expectancy with chemotherapy alone is 8 months, while adding high dose intravenous vitamin C resulted in 16 more months of survival. And Dr. Syed Haider, my doctor, has been talking about this, and I know a lot of people find this gross, but if you have this, the vitamin C powder, which is concentrated vitamin C, it's the real McCoy, the good stuff. It doesn't have additives, nothing in it at all.
It's bitter.
Yeah, you can go find this and look up Dr. Syed Haider in different places, but he will tell you, and I've got direct messages from him that he said that if you start feeling a scratchy throat, you start feeling a little off, and you know that there's something coming on, take 10,000. I'm going to mess this up, but it's 10,000. My wife will get in here. But what is the dose that you normally take?
Milligrams?
Yeah, maybe it's milligrams, but she'll get on here and correct me. But anyway, it's going to tell you to take like 10,000. And then if that doesn't get you to the point of diarrhea, then he says take another 5 or a 10, sometimes 20 or 30. It's going to depend on you as an individual, your body. And that vitamin C is going to get in your system, and it's going to fight whatever's in there, and it's going to start flushing it out. And again, a lot of people find that gross, but when you take vitamin C to the point of diarrhea, then you stop. 9 times out of 10, you can shorten whatever it is by days, sometimes several days. And, you know, what you might have for a week or two, you can get rid of it within a day or two, 3 days, something like that. So there's a lot to vitamin C that people don't realize. But anyway, it says adding high dose vitamin C to a cancer treatment regimen may double survival time, according to a clinical trial that tested this in pancreatic cancer patients. Typically diagnosed in its advanced stages, pancreatic cancer has a poor prognosis and leaves patients with limited treatment options, with most surviving only 8 months with standard chemotherapy. So again, there's a lot of research out there that finally people are starting to come out and talk a little bit more about natural stuff like vitamin C. Again, this isn't stuff you're going to buy in the store in that little bottle because it's got a lot of additives to it that aren't good for you. But you got to buy this stuff by the bag, and it's, like I said, powder form, and it's legit straight stuff. And that's what you're going to need. And also you'll find by doing this research that a lot of people are taking ivermectin with vitamin C now, the baking soda and fenbendazole and all of these things, which there's many testimonies out there now where people who had breast cancer, like Chris mentioned, or they had prostate cancer, and a lot of things in their lung cancers, and they're watching the lumps go away by taking this for a straight 21 or 22 days. I've done this regimen once now. I'm going to do it probably this coming month. In December, I'm going to do it like every couple months. And again, these are true stories out there. Ladies and gentlemen, go look it up. This is a real protocol. And if you want to know and you're interested in it, I'll send you the article. I have it saved on my phone. I will forward it to you. You can look at all the ingredients. It's stuff that you can get your hands on, and it's real. It's not a joke. So if you have something that you want to, you want to fight, you want to look this up, definitely reach out to me, and I'll post it on the show notes, whatever. So pretty cool stuff, actually. Anybody have anything else that they want to, and in the very next one says high dose vitamin D may treat incurable diseases as well. And that's another thing that they've been watching. So,
but D you got to take with K.
So, yep. I mean, all of these things go together. You can't just take one but each one like breaks down magnesium and zinc, and all these things interact and help, each other. So there's a lot of stuff that you have to do. It sounds like we're crazy. Maybe we are, but, I mean, there's just a lot of stuff there that you need to do. So, check into it. And again, not a doctor, not giving you medical advice. I'm just telling you what I do. And I take ivermectin and have been since 2020. Every Saturday and Tuesday, I tell people this all the time, and I'm still alive. No side effects, no nothing. And I hardly ever get sick. So my wife will attest to that as well. So, all right.
Well, Lou, I was just going to call out the chat real quick and just say, like, what we talked about before about how people are turning away from mainstream media and turning more into, channels like yours, channels like mine, Sean, who's in the chat, all these other folks that are online, these independent resources. They tend to be more educated and more knowledgeable about the facts. So as soon as you guys started talking about, or when you were reading about all this is coming this time of year. Well, it comes this time every year because it's flu season, it's winter season, and we were saying that, but the chat was like spot on. Everybody in the chat was already jumping on it. Like, we know this is a normal thing, and they act like we're so hats off to the chat, because again, I think you guys are typically more educated than the common man, because you don't just wait for articles to come out to tell you what's coming out and how to feel and everything. You're out there, you're seeking the knowledge, you're interacting with other people that are free thinkers that do their research. So just hats off to the chat. And anybody who's watching, by the way, who's not participating in the chat, if you can, you should. We're having a great time. There's so much interaction going on with these guys. I don't personally do a lot of live chats from my show, so I enjoy coming on shows like this and like with Sean's on Saturday nights and interacting with the chat, because this is like a third to half of the show right here, just interacting with these people. And if you're here watching, you've got to be as sharp as everybody else chiming in. So come on, chime in. Let's have a good time.
Yep, absolutely. And then I was just going back. My wife said Dr. Hyder says do it in 10,000 doses increments until you find your sweet spot. Hers is about 30,000 milligrams. I don't even remember what mine is. I just take a bunch of it until if I'm not mistaken, vitamin D and vitamin K need to be taken together. Do your own research, of course, but I think that one was right, and that is true.
Yeah.
Luca had said, I think that's part of the reason why my mom was able to live for 6 years with colon cancer until this past March. Sorry to hear that. And then she was always a healthy eater and took vitamins and rarely got sick. I just locked my fat ass in the room till the demon spawn sniffing and sneezing stops. That's the poop slinger. But yeah, so I mean, we never got I call it the clot shot. We never got the clot shot. We've been in this conversation before, but had COVID once. And if it wasn't for the ivermectin, man, it knocked the crap out of it really quick. So, and think, kind of like Chris said, we were coming back from South Carolina, Myrtle Beach, actually. And that's when we got that notification that, hey, something's going on, some new disease, and, you better get food and all kinds of Lysol and stuff like that. Then we started researching it right away. And then that's how I found Dr. Pierre Corey, the FLCCC, Dr. Hyder, Dr. Mobeen, all these people who explained, very top doctors in their fields, explaining to us exactly what was going on. The Barrington document, all of these people that were trying to scream and tell everyone that this is what you need to do. Don't listen to the medical profession, unfortunately. And well, we all got to where we're at today. So it is what it is. But yeah, you have to research. You have to go the extra mile. Don't take anybody's word for it. But again, I can attest to people like Joe Rogan, who took the monoclonal antibodies and stuff and did the different things. The ivermectin, the hydroxychloroquine, because we took all those things and it really, really worked. Within 24 to 48 hours, I could tell the difference. Lou's Pharmaceutical Corner brought to you by, don't you say that, I can't say that word. I don't like them.
That's
But,
why I laughed
come
out
up with a
loud.
new name. Somebody come up with something. I like what he said. I just don't like that last word. We got to come up with something better, like Lucifer. There you go. Not Lucifer, but Lucifer or something. Yeah, we got to come up with something different because that's a bad name. That P word. If my boyfriend tried yelling out instructions to me while I was sick, I'd rip him a new.
Oh, yeah, I'm 100% with you on that one.
We woke him up, didn't we? Most doctors work for Big Pharma. Yeah, well, my doctor don't. I can guarantee you that. Dr. Syed Hyder does not work for Big Pharma. He's totally against him. He's more into grounding and natural.
I asked him. Yeah, I asked him for, I forget what it was. And he literally told me, he's like, well, for that, what I would recommend is some liver tartare, raw liver, just straight raw liver. And I was like, he's like, you could take the capsules, but it's not going to be the same. And I was like, well, that wasn't like, hey, take a Tylenol. I was like,
right.
Like, okay.
And Joe said doctors don't cure illnesses anymore. They only treat the symptoms. Yeah. And again, that's not Dr. Syed Hyder. He's totally the opposite. So, and again, it's another one of those. Don't take my word for it. Go look him up. I've talked to you about him many a times to all of you. My go-to stack or my go-to doc, and that's a real doctor. And yeah, I mean, he'll tell you anything you want to know for free. He does live question and answers on X, on Rumble. He does this all the time, sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the evening. So follow him. She's got him up on there now at Dr. Syed Hyder on X. Give him a follow. And whenever he goes live, listen to him. This guy just has conversations like we're having right now, and he'll tell you about all kinds of things that you can do to make things better.
I really hope JFK coming in, that insurances start covering like the chiropractor care that I use, or, acupuncture, stuff like that.
Yep.
RFK.
RFK.
Did I say JFK?
Yeah.
I totally did.
We knew what you meant. RFK
Junior.
We don't want to get like Bongino. More. I hate that. I love him, but I hate when he does that. I'm glad it's almost over. We don't need that. No more. Don't, Dan, don't. All right, one more thing here. What's everybody think about Pam Bondi? Matt Gaetz is out, which doesn't surprise me, but MSNBC guest melts down over Trump picking Pam Bondi as the next attorney general, says they should fear her because she's competent.
Mm-hmm, I heard that.
Liberal political scientist Jason Johnson said Bondi is an effective pick who is worse than Matt Gaetz. We should all fear her because she's competent. We may not agree with her ideologically, but she actually knows how to do this job. I got a little clip here. I want everyone to listen to it. And this is really comical. It's only 58 seconds long, but they know they're in trouble with this pick. And I really like her. I like her more than I do Matt Gaetz, to be quite honest, though. But here we go.
Pam Bondi is exactly what I was saying in the last segment that we should all fear because she's competent. We may not agree with her ideologically, but she actually knows how to do this job. So if anyone on the Democratic side or anyone who cared about liberty or justice was thinking, well, maybe Matt Gaetz will screw this up and that'll give us some time. No, Pam Bondi knows what she's doing. She knows what she's doing about immigration. Remember, Florida is one of those states that's been very aggressive about migrants and deportation and moving people to different states and everything else like that. Florida has enacted all sorts of rules and laws to curtail students and what they can do on campuses and finding legal justifications for manipulating education money. She is a dangerous and effective pick, and that's frankly worse than what we would have got with Matt Gaetz, even with the deplorable moral background that he has.
Yeah, and I want to discuss that with a little more depth with both of you, including her record on civil rights, LGBTQ rights, and other issues that are front and center at the DOJ, and which we know were also big campaign issues this cycle.
Wow. I got to stay out of the chat.
Yeah.
This third rail, I don't know who this guy is, but he's off the rails for real. Oh, my goodness.
I think it's funny because sometimes Chris catches it before I do, and then he'll look down at my picture to see if I picked up on it yet.
And now you want to know why I stay out of the chat as much as possible, because I have to focus down your son.
What's funny is I basically sent the same thing to him in just a private chat. I think I said would.
Yep, exactly. and I don't know why in that clip they used Trump Pence on there when they wanted to show something about Bondi, but I'm like, why not show something more, current? I don't know why they did that, but there was something in here. Leah, I wanted to comment on this. When you're in the hospital, the nutritionist is usually the very last person you see, when someone's overall health should be the most important thing. Yeah, well, and the food that they serve you, don't tell me that stuff's got lots of vitamins and protein and stuff, because that stuff is about as bland and nasty as you're ever going to get.
Ain't got
Better
no
to go to a
seasoning.
corner greasy spoon and with pinball machines, and they're cooking it, frying burgers and fried onions on the side. That's got to be healthier.
Speaking of which, tonight was the first night I've had a home cooked meal in about 2 weeks. So our septic tank has been like on the puts. Like, we haven't been able to really run a lot of water, so we haven't been able to wash dishes. So everything's been frozen family meals, frozen pizzas, or picking up something to go. So it was just, it was chicken Alfredo, homemade chicken Alfredo. But you know what? There's something about a good home cooked meal, and knowing how to use seasoning, because again, I am from the South.
I know. I heard you talk a little bit about that on your show that you put out today. And I was like, yeah, we definitely know how to season our food and cook stuff. So, but I am very fortunate because I get a home cooked meal every day, unless I say, hey, I'm just going to do the leftover thing because I'm still healing up and everything and all that. But like tonight we had catfish, and I wanted what I call them cheese potatoes, where we take potatoes and you slice them up and you put butter and cheese on them. Oh my goodness.
El gratin potatoes.
Yeah, but I don't like that name because we were having that conversation earlier. I said that, and I remember having a certain kind of au gratin potato, and it didn't taste anything like this. My mom used to make these all the time, and they were really good. But anyway, that's probably what they're supposed to be called.
And I made homemade bread for our sandwiches.
Yeah. And I love homemade bread as well. Right out of the oven with
I make
butter.
my own bread.
I want to do that. I really want to. We were on. I don't remember if I was on the show or if just in the chat. Handy News was talking about that the other day, about the stuff that you buy in the store is just garbage. And we were talking about how some of the stuff is starting to kind of change now. The companies are starting to kind of shift gears a little bit now, and they're definitely going to when RFK gets in there. But even the bread's just full of everything. And he was talking about, I was like, oh my God, this would be a great time to start making bread at home. I would love to do that.
Oh, I don't know. Can you see? I do it both ways. I do it in the oven, but I also have a bread maker.
Oh, that's where you're going with that. Okay.
But I have the bread maker, but today I made them actually in the oven. I made a double loaf.
Wow. Well, speaking of loaves, everybody's happy that Chris finally got to get rid of his loaf because that was a perfect segue, because apparently everybody's making fun of that, saying, hey, Chris finally got to go poop.
Yay.
Oh my gosh, you people. Man, it's Sean. Sean comes in and just everything goes off the rails. He really does. We're going to have to boot him. He'll come back in under a different name. We won't know any better.
God bless him. I love that guy.
Wow. Mayhem pissed off his cats because went letterbox. Wow.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do.
That's right. Man's got to do what he's
YOLO.
got to do. All right. So we're going to get to the main story here. Man, I don't know that people realize how serious this was, but very, very, very important stuff here. Another article from the Epic Times before we get into the video here. We're going to jump into a more serious thing. Putin says that Russia used new range ballistic missile to strike Ukraine. The strike could be the first use of such a weapon in war, and it was. Russian President Vladimir Putin announced Russian forces used a hypersonic medium-range ballistic missile, an MRBM, to strike targets in the eastern Ukraine city of Dnipro on November 21st. Putin said that the MRBM is a new missile model that Russian forces have dubbed Oreshnik. He said the missile was armed with a non-nuclear payload. The Russian president also made the announcement in a televised address in Moscow, just hours after Ukrainian officials began reporting what they believed was an intercontinental ballistic missile, an ICBM, strike on that town. In a press statement earlier on November 21st, Ukraine's Air Force assessed that Russian forces launched the ICBM from the Astrakhan region, which borders the Caspian Sea. Ukraine's Air Force said Russia launched the ICBM alongside a Kinzhal air-launched ballistic missile and 6 KH-101 cruise missiles. The Ukrainian military said it intercepted the cruise missiles and reported that the 2 ballistic missiles didn't cause very much damage. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky was less definitive about whether it was an ICBM that struck Dnipro, but in a press statement on November 21st, he did say all the parameters, speed, altitude, matched those of an intercontinental ballistic missile. I'm a little bit put off on Zelensky and everyone else kind of downplaying this, because everything that I've read about this and from what all the reports that are coming out, which we're going to show you some video now, this is something new on the battlefield, and it's actually pretty crazy. So this is it's like a 4-minute long video, but I think it's very important everyone sees this. But check this out.
The language game has been confusing for all of us today, but what the Pentagon is stressing is that this is an intermediate range ballistic missile. They called it experimental. Now, they say it's experimental because it's a new capability. It's the first time that it's been used on the Ukrainian battlefield. There's a distinction being made about an ICBM, as Ukraine called it initially. The Pentagon saying that was Ukraine was calling it that because it was based off an initial assessment. And they said that because what the Pentagon calls an IRBM and an ICBM have similar trajectories when they go up into the sky, into the atmosphere, and then come back down, and so in similar sizes. But again, they're calling this something which is smaller. Now, one of the things that you're seeing on your screen there, you're seeing these pops coming down in similar time frames. That's something that's called a MIRV technology. That means independent reentry vehicles, multiple warheads. It's used in ICBMs for nuclear warheads. Obviously, this was not a nuclear attack, but it shows the capability was used in this missile. And that's something that we have confirmed through a U.S. official. So new technologies appearing on the battlefield and also deemed escalatory, particularly with all this nuclear saber rattling taking place from Putin.
Right, showcasing essentially the power that they do have there. Louis, what else did the Pentagon say about the notification that the United States was given?
So the U.S. said that it was notified shortly before this attack happened. As you heard there from Patrick, the Russians are saying that they gave the U.S. about a half hour's notice. Very interesting how this process works out. There's actually a center at the State Department. It's kind of manned jointly by civilians and by military personnel. It's called the Nuclear Risk Reduction Center, and that is where the Russians notify them. And again, this is a regular thing through treaties. The United States and previously the Soviet Union and now Russia have had disarmament, nuclear disarmament treaties for years, and one of those things established these kinds of centers. There's a similar center in Russia, and that's how the Pentagon was notified. It was through this center over at the State Department.
Well, and as you pointed out here, as we're watching this missile drop here, right, it is equipped with what could be nuclear warheads, but it wasn't armed in that fashion. What is the Pentagon saying about any potential changes to Russia's nuclear posture?
Well, they emphasize they have not seen a change in Russia's nuclear posture, and accordingly, there is no change in the U.S. nuclear posture. Well, what they really stress are the concerns about Putin's saber rattling. They say that it's unhelpful, that it's really irresponsible. Now, this is language that we've heard over and over from the United States, particularly over the last 2 years, because it's essentially been a crutch for Russia and for Putin to emphasize that they are a nuclear power and that they have capabilities that they could use if they wanted to. Obviously, they did not in this this situation, but they're showing the capabilities that they could use if they were to use nuclear weapons, because, like I said, that MERV technology is essentially only used in nuclear weapons launches. And again, this is Russia showing that what they're capable of, though the United States says that there are ways, essentially, that it may not be used because there's only a handful of these weapon systems in place right now.
And Louis, what more do we know about this North Korean general that was apparently wounded in yesterday's Ukrainian attack?
Right. The U.S. official confirming to ABC News that a senior North Korean general was wounded among several other North Koreans that were wounded in an attack that was launched yesterday by Ukraine. They used the Storm Shadow. This is the British equivalent, if you will, of what the United States has been giving them this new authorization to use what we call the ATACMS missiles that have long-range capability about 190 miles or so. And they targeted a facility where there were North Korean and Russian troops inside of Kursk. That's the area that was seized by Ukraine back in August. And so new technology that Ukraine is using there in that fight, and also reminder that this is a conflict that is growing. The United States has been so critical of North Korea sending 10,000 or now 11,000 troops into Kursk to help the Russians reclaim that territory, and also urging North Korea not to engage in the fight. And now you're seeing this a senior official, a senior high-ranking North Korean general being wounded, and again, other injuries in that incident as well. It just kind of demonstrates how this conflict seems to be growing.
All right, so that's pretty devastating stuff that you see there. And for the people, if you're not really comprehending what was going on with those flashes as they were coming down, just imagine if those were actual nuclear warheads as they re-entered and they were all landing like that. That's what they do. And if those would have been nuclear warheads, then you would have seen explosions, and then you would have had the radiation spread. It just would have been, I mean, totally wiped that place out. And people aren't really thinking that, okay, well, you know, they fired a weapon that, I got one more clip that's only 43 seconds long, and this is Vladimir Putin talking about the capability of this weapon. He's claiming that nothing can stop it and that the United States or anyone else doesn't have the technology. I don't know if it's true or not, but this thing is super, super fast.
I have an unpopular opinion.
What's that?
I think Putin had every right to do what he did. I mean, if somebody fired on us, you don't think we would? I mean, Ukraine is going, I mean, Russia's going easy on Ukraine, and Ukraine is trying to fight them with all they have. If somebody did that to us, what Ukraine is doing, we would have obliterated them off the map.
Shock and awe, like we did Iraq. And if you listen to that part of the video, very, very important part where, you know, he was saying that they're coming down on Putin for doing what he did, but yet you didn't say anything about coming down on the United States or Ukraine by sending long-range missiles deeper into Russia. Well, he retaliated. And now he's telling you that if you back me into a corner because I'm surrounded on all sides except for the Ukraine, then I have this capability. And you're exactly right. The United States would have done that. Let's just say a normal leader, anyone who lets, you know, Chinese spy balloons go over the whole continent and then don't shoot it down until it goes off the coast of South Carolina or Georgia, or lets all these other things happen in our country. Well, maybe this administration wouldn't do anything, but Trump definitely will. So, but anyway, before I get to this next clip, Chris, what did you think about that? Did you see any of this or hear any of this beforehand? Because I know I kind of tipped you off on this. We were going to be talking about this. So,
yeah, a few things that I saw was just the gravity of one, how I don't want to downplay it, I guess, because maybe movies and games have built it up for big, but it wasn't as impactful all in all as it could have been. Right. It didn't do as much damage as one would think, as impressive of a weapon as it is. Right. Like you said, had it been loaded with a different payload, with a nuclear payload, boy, that would have been something. So I saw two things. One, it was a show of power and what they could do. And that's how you get people's attention more than just spitting game. So they showed it. So I think that was one thing he was trying to do. And then I don't know if this is true or not. I haven't really had a chance to cross-check this enough, but from what I did see from one source is that they did hit a I don't know how to say use mash workshops where the Grom 2 and long range UAVs are made. So it's like they did hit the target they were going for, and they did do damage, but it seemed like Ukraine was downplaying it from what I understand at one time. So a lot of probably twisted and misinformation there to save face from some people, but also, I mean, Putin showing us that, you know, he's ready to come to the table.
Yeah. And go ahead, Gina.
No, I'm just agreeing.
Yeah. Here's another, I just downloaded this while you were talking. Here's another view of this, which is a heck of a light show, but it just gives you the a different perspective in the night sky of these same explosions going off outside of the city, looking into the city.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So
impressive.
Yeah, and that almost looks like you said. It looks like something from a movie, something that's surreal. And again, if those were warheads, you know, nuclear warheads, we would see the mushroom clouds and everything. And this, and make no mistake about it, I'm not sitting here thinking, you know, it is cool looking. It looks like a video game or something, but that was real. And this is what man can do to himself, to each other, if it ever got to that point where someone would start firing these missiles at different, you know, at each other, like Russia and the United States. And another key point, which I know there were a lot of people out there who didn't want to believe it or didn't believe it when the first reports came out about North Korea fighting alongside the Russians. Well, now you know it's true, because one of their colonels was killed and many of their soldiers were killed. And they plainly said that 10 to 11,000 soldiers are there in Russia fighting alongside. So now, you know, it's not so hard to conceive in your head that we have two communist countries. Why wouldn't they join forces? So can you imagine if China would just join into that? That'd be pretty crazy. So Pentagon is flipping out because most of our DEI military are made up of pound puppies and princesses. Yeah, exactly. So let's go ahead and play this short clip of Putin, 43 seconds. This is him talking about this. And you might have to read this, so pay attention. If not, we'll talk about it, and I'll kind of tell you. But I'm pretty sure he's speaking in Russian, of course, but I can't remember if this one had an American interpreter or not. So let's go ahead and check it out.
Такому оружию на сегодняшний день не существует. Ракеты атакуют цели со скоростью 10 махов. Это 2,5-3 километра в секунду. Современные, имеющиеся в мире системы противовоздушной обороны и создаваемые американцами системы противоракетной обороны в Европе подобные ракеты не перехватывают. Это исключено. Подчеркну еще раз, что не Россия, а именно США разрушили систему международной безопасности. И, продолжая бороться, цепляться за свою гегемонию, толкают весь мир к глобальному конфликту.
Okay, so Mach 10 is what these weapons will go, Mach 10. And all he's saying is that there's nothing that the Americans have and nothing that anyone can do to stop these weapons. And that the Americans are pushing for a global conflict by doing what they're doing. They're just making things worse.
He's not wrong.
You can call it saber rattling all you want. Are you willing to die on that hill that Putin, if backed into a corner, would not do something? I don't know. It's not a gamble that I want to take with Russian lives or American lives or anyone else for that matter. Because make no mistake about it, if we have nukes, and I doubt that this will happen, but we don't know. We have nukes that hit Boston, Chicago, St. Louis, anywhere just in the eastern portion of the country, from the Midwest here in Missouri on eastern where, then you would have, let's just say the wind's blowing out of the south that day. Now our neighbors up in Canada, Sean, all those people, you're all going to be on the nuclear fallout. And so it's not just going to be where it hits. It's going to spread all over the place. Same thing with Ukraine. If they get hit or Russia gets hit, all of those Eastern Bloc countries, Poland and all those other places are going to take a hit too. Even if they didn't take a direct hit, they still get that nuclear fallout. And nobody wants that.
Yeah, I can't remember who said it in the chat. It was either George or Monkey, I think, was saying that if Russia were to send a nuclear missile over here, they wouldn't send just one. They'd mess us up. They'd hit us hard with multiple. So I'd hate to get to that point because it'd be ugly.
Yeah. Do you remember? I know you guys are old enough to remember. Remember the movie War Games?
Yeah.
Remember how that simulation? Yeah, on the computer. What did they call that? I know it was a war game, but didn't the computer have a name or something? I can't remember.
I think because it was talking to them and stuff. And yeah, I can't remember. It was
showing all those missiles going from Russia to America and stuff. And they thought it was actually happening. It was like a simulation, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of places. Now there was this other thing on X that I was going to pull up, and I don't know if it's still on here before we end the show, but it had something to do with a movie that was out a while back, probably in the 80s maybe or something. And it was kind of cool to watch because there was a lot of crazy stuff going on, back in the day when they made that movie, about some of the things that would happen. And, they were just doing the best they could in Hollywood to recreate stuff and make it real. And there were some really good actors in there as well. But I'm actually, and that's the nickname of the Oreshnik. It's called Hazel. I guess would be an American is what it would be called, is Hazel, medium range ballistic missile. But anyway, I'm kind of scrolling down through here and I don't see it now, but yeah, there was some movie that I had seen on X and I was like, you know what, I might just do that. But it was very, it's a pretty long clip. I didn't want to play the whole thing like I did the other one. But what it was like, some lady's in her bedroom and she's in the mirror getting, brushing her hair, and the window's open behind her. And you see this streak go up in the air, and then she looks out, and there was a missile silo not far from her house in the ground that opened up. It slid open, and the nuclear warhead took off. And then she's looking off in the distance, and you see the kids standing outside, and then you see it hitting in the cities. And you know how the movies were back in the day, the Red Dawn and all that stuff. It was one of those type things. And that was, when you look at it, you see the silliness in it, but then you also realize that it could actually happen. And then it's not silly anymore. It's like, man, mankind would literally, for, just because of pride and everything else, would literally decimate itself to prove a point. And
well, that's the part of Ukraine. What Ukraine is dealing with right now. His pride will not let him back down at this point, because he's not going to win. He's not going to win. There's no chance Ukraine is going to end up getting what they want and winning anything out of this. They are just trying to buy time until we jump in the game full force and everybody else does. That's what I think, honestly. Tinfoil hat, whatever. They're not. This is a lost battle. They need to sit down at the table, figure some stuff out, and back out, because they're just going to lose more lives, more ground, more everything. But he can't do that. He's trying to save face. His ego will not let him do that.
Exactly. And was going back to what Joe said a few minutes ago, about 4 minutes ago. He said, even when I was in the military 50 years ago, and you all wouldn't believe that we had what we had as far as weaponry. That being said, I have no doubt that whatever Russia has, we have better or more sophisticated. So, yeah, and I would like to believe that that's true, but I never take that stuff for granted, because I don't know what we've done here in the last, who knows, probably 12 years since Trump first came onto the scene, outside of Trump himself, because we're so focused on what my high heel or what their high heels look like when they're in uniform. or putting their hair in a ponytail, as opposed to, are we creating something and keeping up with Russia? And that's something that I always caution people on. And again, I hate to be, and I'm not trying to be argumentative in any way, because I truly don't know. I'm just guessing from, humanity, taking a wild, guess here, that we're led to believe always that the American technology is so it out, I guess it out, outdoes by far the Chinese and the Russians. And I'm very cautious about that, because it's that kind of thinking, I believe, from our governments, not from our people, but from our governments, that gets us in a lot of trouble. If we have people like Elon Musk that can do what he's doing with rockets, NASA, our own government, can't duplicate that. And they failed. We got two astronauts stuck in space right now that he's going to have to go up and get in January. If it wasn't for him, they'd probably die up there.
I don't think another space,
unless another country goes up and gets them. And before we know it, he's going to be landing people on Mars. So my whole point is that Elon Musk isn't the only person like that on this planet. Maybe the Russians have somebody that we just don't hear about because they're in a communist place, or maybe China. There's a lot of money flowing through these communist countries. So I wouldn't be, and I always say this because I'm very cautious about stuff like this, because usually when you say, hey, there's no way that they have something that we can't overcome, that's when we usually get slapped upside the head with something, because they're like, oh, wow, I had no idea that was possible. But I do, down deep inside, hope, because under the right leadership, I believe we're much better off to be in charge if we're going to police anything, or out of any of the countries. I would rather it be someone like Trump or someone like-minded, and the United States leading that charge, as opposed to Russia or China. So make no mistake about it, I have American pride, and I think that in certain times and instances, we should step in and police the world if need be, but not like we are on this platform constantly all over the world, sticking our nose in everything. And again, technology is, we're constantly getting hacked, our government, computers, our systems here in the United States. So somebody out there is a lot better than some of the people that we have that are counter hackers. So keep all of that in mind, that there might be a lot of things going on out there that we're unaware of, that they could be just as strong.
We just had an issue here.
Yeah.
Our Stop and Shops and our Aldi's, 90% of their shelves were bare because they got hacked and stopped all the trucking, all the deliveries.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. Wow. Francis said, I think we are advanced, but not in. Yeah, I believe that. I believe that. I don't know. It's kind of like, I know it sounds horrible, and like I'm making excuses, but it's like a fighter. You go into the ring and you're like, there's no way that guy's going to beat me. Or like Mike Tyson says, you go in with a game plan until you get punched in the face. And then you're like, wow, where'd that come from? I didn't see that one coming. And then you're like, oh, I am in a fight now. And that's all I'm saying is, I never want to take that attitude that we're going to have something more far superior, and then we find out we don't, and it's too late. So anyway, so many scenarios when it's pertaining to warfare. Yeah, exactly. One person makes a mistake. One person doesn't act when they should because they're hesitant. Good Lord, anything could happen. And then Leah said, we got SpaceX out here at Vandenberg too. And yeah, that's SpaceX, man. I'll tell you what, Elon is just he's just another phenomenon that I just never saw somebody like him, with his ambition and his, the vision that he has. It's pretty remarkable. And as I said, he might not see it in his lifetime, but I bet he does, if he doesn't die at a young age. Like natural causes, and lives for many more years. I bet you he sees people up on Mars. I bet you he does. I don't know that I'll see it, but I don't think he's that far off from making things happen. So You got to take into consideration, again, he can't be the only one on the earth that has this vision and this motivation. But he's got the Neuralink that we've done a story on before, where you put the chip in the brain and it helps people think and do things on computers. Eventually, it's going to help them move their arms for paraplegics and stuff, and it's going to help them maybe walk. He's got that. He's got Tesla. He's got SpaceX. He's got Starlink. And I've said this before too, so don't chop my head off. I'm just a messenger. I'm just thinking out loud here. Right now, everything that we see Elon Musk doing, we like. It's cool. It's good. But that could all turn around in a very, very fast instant and be used for evil really, really quick. Think about that. Because right now, I think China's putting something up there now. I forget what it's called, but it's something that's going to compete against Starlink. As far as the satellites go, I just saw an article about it and forgot the name of it, but they're going to try to compete. But just think of all of the information that he has control of through Starlink, and the rockets and all these other things, and the Neuralink, which is AI and all that. So there's a lot of things that could, that are used for good that get turned around and they end up being super, super evil or bad things. So I guess what I'm saying is, yeah, Elon's pretty cool now, all the things that he's coming up with, but just remember that those things can be used for bad as well. And it can happen in a heartbeat. So that doesn't mean I'm right.
That Neuralink thing's a little interesting.
Crazy. Well, you know what it is, Chris? I've touched on this a few times, and I'll go there. The way I see the world, and I tell my wife this all the time. So long story short, I can be sitting in front of a TV, and I'm sure you're the same way. Anybody who believes in God can see this. I could be sitting in front of a TV, and I can say, wait a minute, I can relate that to the Bible. Or I could say something like, this pertains to something. So when we see our children being attacked, we see that a nuclear family, the nucleus of the family, or the family unit has been under attack. All of these things, I liken that because I say that is evil fighting against God's creation, because it hates God's creation. It wants to destroy anything about it. And that's how I see life. And that's kind of where I'm going, is that we're trying to, like with Neuralink, everybody says, yeah, that's a cool thing, but we're constantly trying to replicate how to create cells and how to create ears and body parts in human beings. And we want to freeze them, in cryo places, cryogenics, whatever they call that. And then we want to bring them back to life later in the years when we have more technology. So again, everything to me is, like camera systems, because God's everywhere all the time and he knows everything. And the devil can't, he doesn't have that same ability. So he has to do it through other means like cameras and technology and stuff, because he you know what I'm saying? So that's how I see the world. And a lot of people say, man, you're way out there, you're crazy. But I seriously see it that way, that everything is about trying to recreate what God himself has already done and can do, because they can't. So they have to find another way to get to that same point. If that makes any sense. I might be, confusing people by trying to explain it.
Something I thought was interesting, and I was going to say it then, and I was like, nah, but now I'll say it. But we were saying that earlier, we were talking about the vitamins A, the vitamin B, vitamin D, like getting the vitamins. And I saw Leah was talking about grounding and stuff it's almost like if we had the vitamins and nutrients that were put in our foods and in the soil and everything that we're supposed to get, we would be living a lot healthier. We'd be a lot happier. Our mental state would be better and everything. If it was the way God intended for it to be. Now every land is over harvested. There's no vitamins and nutrients in our food anymore for a large portion of it. So you have to go out there and you find these concentrated vitamins and everything, because it's not in our food sources anymore, be it vegetables, fruits or meats or anything, because the cows are eating the grass. The grass doesn't have anything nutrientful, but plentiful in it for that. And so you're not really getting the greatest impact. My generation is not getting all the vitamins and nutrients that my parents' generation is, that their parents' generation is. Even going back to just something as simple as look at the houses, you know, when they were built with 2x4s, 2x4s were 2x4. Now they're like a inch and something by whatever. And the rings are so much further apart on our trees now because they're so new. They're not old. They're not as strong. They're not as sturdy because we just go. And we've depleted again the wonderful creation that we were given. And then now fast forward to where we're at in the conversation here with Neuralink and everything else. Now we're trying to play. And look, I like a lot of what Elon does. I like the imagination and the dreaming. I hate that when we get older, we stop dreaming, because I think that's what drives us so much, is to continue to dream, to push, to keep moving forward. Again, I still want to be a filmmaker. I'm 40 years old. I haven't given up on my dream. I'm going to keep pushing. You know, it's something that motivates me and go, yeah. But with like Neuralink, that scares me a little bit because, you know, when you do look at the Bible, you know, you can't buy, sell, or trade without the mark of the beast. And not that, you know, Elon's intentions are necessarily negative or evil or anything like that. But in the wrong hands, technology like that could be sold to us as a bill of goods. Like, this is good stuff right here. It'll help you with this. It'll help you with that. Hey, and then the next thing you know, hey, you know what? There's actually something in there we can turn on that you don't have to have debit cards and credit cards and cash anymore. And you can actually buy, sell, and trade with that. Oh, you don't have to do this. And then you become this whole new creation separate from what we were originally created to be. And that's just a whole nother world that I can't even fathom. Again, the further we get from our creator and the original creation, I think the completely worse off that we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, there at the end, what you were just talking about, you're talking about blockchain and XRP and Bitcoin and all that. That's where we're going in the future. They were just talking about that on TV today. Out of all the weird things, that's going to be our payment system. And they were even saying that today, that the United States better wake up because we're falling behind. China, Japan, Brazil, the BRICS nations, all these people are already starting to use the blockchain and the crypto and stuff. So they're already into all that. But yeah, I mean, all that is tied in. And eventually I think that Elon is going to have some kind of, you know, I don't know, it's not going to be like an XRP, but it's going to have his own thing. We'll just call it the X coin. Eventually he's going to be into that too. And supposedly you're going to be able to go there and buy everything like you do on Amazon. It's going to be a one-stop, one-shop, whatever for all things. Eventually is what he has in his mind. But again, it goes back to what Chris just said and what I just said previously, that when someone has this much power, even though it's not maybe intentional right now, I think it turns and it becomes something that maybe it wasn't meant to be. It's just always something to keep in the back of your mind. So Steam now takes Bitcoins. Yeah, I think Bitcoin hit, last I saw was what, 97,000 a coin or 100,000. I was like, whoa. And some people got into this for zero or like 2 pennies, 2 cents for a coin. They're rich. So if they bought a bunch of it, pretty amazing how that happened. So, but anyway, I think the moral of the story is that we got a lot going on in the United States. And again, don't ever dismiss what Putin says or what he thinks, because again, this guy is, you know, we don't worship this guy, and we know that he's ex-KGB. We know what he's capable of. He's a very dangerous person. Maybe not as dangerous as he used to be when he was younger, but this is one mean, tough dude that you would not want to run into a dark alley or a back room with in the spook world or the spy world, because I'm sure there's many ways that he could kill you with his training and everything. And we have the same thing over here. So these people are very smart. They're very agile. They're used to thinking like this. And we have no clue what goes on around the world with the CIA and all of these different operations, these black ops and stuff. So it's all well beyond what we think about or do in our daily lives. That's why they're out there doing that. But there's a lot of corruption on both sides, all countries. And I just don't think we should be poking the bear. I don't think they should be poking the eagle. You know, us, I think Lady Liberty, I think we all should just take a step back and before it gets too far out of hand. And the only ones that are really suffering right now, outside of the people that are dying in Russia and Ukraine, is the American people, because we're getting poorer and poorer and going farther and farther in debt, trying to keep something going over there that really needs to come to an end anyway. So it just doesn't make any sense. Sean said he sold his Bitcoin so he could afford an exhaust for my Mini Cooper. Well, that was a mistake. You should have hung on to it. You could have bought 100 Mini Coopers. You could have bought a Cadillac or something. Who knows? Or maybe got you a Tesla pickup truck. But yeah, could have done all that. Oh, real quickly, I just want to touch on your show, and then I'm going to let you do a shout out for yourself. Did you what did you think about the John Jones dance? I love that. I thought that was pretty cool. I saw you talk about it. I watched it live. I watched it on pay-per-view. So that was awesome, dude.
That's cool. There. I mean, a lot of those guys in the ring are, I mean, for a while now have always been very positive toward Trump. I mean, obviously Trump's always been positive with the UFC, been very supportive financially and otherwise, been very close to Dana and all those guys. And I mean, for the longest time, like everyone there has basically embraced Trump with open arms and shown him nothing but love. And they'll use some of their in-ring time to talk about him. So it's great to see that continuing. And I thought that was really cool that John Jones did that. Yeah.
Yeah. When nobody would accept Dana, because back in the day, that was too brutal of a sport. Nobody wanted any part of it. And that's when Trump said, hey, you can come to one of his hotels or whatever. I forget which one it was. It might have been in Florida or out west, Nevada, who knows, Las Vegas somewhere. But anyway, he, said, come on in, do your thing. And he supported him. And then it just kind of grew from there. So, but yeah, John Jones, that was a big fight. And then everybody was upset because, Stipe Miocic, they were like, oh, well, he hasn't fought since, 2 or 3 years. So what'd you expect? And I was like, well, that's the fight they put together. He still had to beat the man because he was like one of the biggest, baddest heavyweights of all time. His father time caught up with him. So same thing with the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson. I heard you talk about that. That didn't surprise me, the outcome. I've been a fight fan all of my life. I watched Joe Frazier, George Foreman, Muhammad Ali, Roberto Duran, all of these big name people back in the 70s and the 80s. And I could have told anyone that Mike Tyson, for his age and for the years that he's been out of the ring, he is not going to do anything. It would have took one lucky punch, like maybe the first 10 or 15 seconds of the fight. He could have caught him. It might have been another story, but father time catches up with all of us. It doesn't matter. And then last but not least, I heard today, I didn't get to read the whole thing, but a civil suit against Conor McGregor, that he was found guilty for raping that girl. So it looks like she was awarded $215,000 or something like that. I don't know. I don't know if it happened in Ireland or where the court case was. Like I said, I haven't had a chance to read it, but and I feel sorry for Devlin, I think her name is, or whatever. She's a really pretty girl, his wife or girlfriend that he has a baby with. I don't know how she's stuck with this guy because he's something else. But anyway, kudos to her, I guess, but not really. If that makes any sense. If I was her, I'd be like, but because it was a civil case, there's probably there won't be any time served. See, it wasn't a criminal, it was a civil, which you can be found not guilty in a criminal suit and nothing happens to you, and then they can turn around and get you civilly and still get money out of you. So it probably was here in the United States. I don't know. I don't know where it happened, but I don't know. One of these days we'll do a show on the fight, the fight game over the years. That's something that I've always followed ever since, we could talk about the Muhammad Ali fights and Joe Frazier and all that. I've seen some great wars, the Thrilla in Manila, all of those over the years. So I got a lot of history in this head of mine. Huh?
Gibberish to me. I don't know any of that stuff.
Yeah.
I'd just be sitting here like this.
That's what happens with age. You find out a lot of things. But see, you got a lot of information that I don't have from a certain time, like the 90s on up. And I didn't pay any attention to that stuff because it didn't mean anything to me. So you guys could outdo me there, and I could go back and outdo you. So because you weren't there, it wasn't your thing. So it's kind of like Chris said earlier. It's like we all kind of came up in different times and different, upbringings, and different things surrounded us. So pretty crazy stuff, really.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, all right, Chris, I want you to go ahead and do a shout out for your own self and what you've got going on and what's coming up and your scheduling. Anything that you want to tell us, go ahead and do so, please.
Sure. So we're wrapping up the year. Like you guys were saying, I don't have a ton of shows left for the year. I do have my weekly shows that come out Friday mornings at 10 a.m. I'm not doing one next Friday. I'm little. Now I'm big. Sorry. Sean's ADD is rubbing off. But no, I have Friday mornings at 10 a.m. on my channel. I put out my full shows, and then I cut up the segments and release those throughout the week for people with short attention spans. Gotcha. So I do that, and I don't typically live stream, but I have started doing that the first Monday of every month. So we're going to end off the year. December 2nd is going to be my final Monday Night Mayhem live. That will be all my socials. I'll announce all that. I've got a crew put together for that. I've got a crew put together for January already. I'm really excited about. Maybe hint, hint. I don't know. But yeah, so I'm lining them up. I'm really enjoying the live streams because of people like you guys that are watching, folks in the chat. I really enjoyed it. So I'm starting to get into it a little bit more. And of course, I do it every Saturday night with good old Sean from Third Relify. He has taken me in and pulled me into his bosoms and fed me everything I needed to be a successful streamer, which Lord knows if I am or am not. I don't know. But I enjoy going over there. It is incredibly off the rails. We go off the rails, R-rated, just topic over here, topic over there. You don't know what's going to come out of the mouth. It is an ADHD masterpiece. I love it. It is so much fun. There is never a dull moment on those streams, but that is Saturday nights over on Third Relify's. But yeah, got a couple that I'll probably do as far as my shows in December, but I'm going to take a break, enjoy the holidays with my family, allow everybody else, obviously to go out there and enjoy this very special time of year. And so just a few more shows before the end of the year. So come catch me at the Morning Mayhem. I'm on Rumble, YouTube, and Odyssey is where all the full shows go. And then my socials are on X, mine's Truth, Facebook, and everything everywhere is pretty much at My Morning Mayhem. So you can find me at My Morning Mayhem pretty much anywhere and everywhere that you can possibly think of.
Yeah, and especially go over to YouTube because he's pushing that 1,000 mark, and let's get him over that as fast as we can. Anybody out there, that'd be really awesome. And yeah, Leah, I saw what you said there about the kitty cat, and so sorry to hear that, and condolences to your family there. So hope everything goes well. And yeah, as I said earlier, Monday, November 25th will be our last show until December 2nd, especially at this time with Thanksgiving week and all that, lot going on with family and cooking and getting stuff prepped and all that stuff. So everyone keep that in mind as well. This coming Monday, again, will be the last show until December 2nd, and then we'll be back on. So, and yeah, we look forward to doing that show in January. With you as well. That'd be pretty cool, and see where we can go with that. And anyone out there that hasn't subscribed to us over on Rumble, please go over to Rumble, download that app. It is free, doesn't cost you anything. It's also the home of free speech, just like Truth Social and X, and not like the commie tube, but anyway, if you haven't been over there yet, get it downloaded, take care of that, and then go follow us at the Blues Views podcast. And while you're there, if you like the content, which we hope you do, go ahead and hit that follow, subscribe, whatever you want to call it, and then hit the like buttons and leave some comments, and also hit the notification button so that whenever we upload content or go live, you will get a notification and you can come join us. So we'd sure appreciate it. And for those of you who are in Rumble watching and you're not communicating or getting involved in the chat, please do so. Don't be a stranger. Come on in and say what you need to say and share your thoughts. We'd love to have you. Same thing with X. You're on X, get down into the bottom of the chat, come in and say hi, say hello, kiss my booty, whatever you need to do. And then also, if you're over there on CommieTube, You can, I don't know if they'll kick me off for calling them commies. They probably won't. But anyway, I don't know. Maybe I'm asking for trouble. Maybe that's my problem. I just need to shut up and be good. But anyway, if you're over on YouTube, I'll be nice. Yeah, come over and join us in the chat. You can do it from there as well, because we go live to all three. So, and if things fail over at YouTube, it's Chris's fault, because he talked me to coming back over. And yeah, it's all Chris. It's all on Chris. Chris said I should go, so I did, and we'll see what happens. So they've already removed episode 150.
Yeah.
They went down like in flames. Yeah, because I talked about ivermectin and the clot shot.
So this one is going to go down, most likely.
Parts of it, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. But I mean, all you got to do is come to Rumble and watch. So that's our home channel, and you'll get to see it all. And that's the way it is. Can't do anything about it. So, all right, what do we got? You put something on the screen. I'm going to end this here. I thought you had something up there that somebody said, so maybe not.
It's okay.
I don't remember. I'm just glad that we could help Leah out tonight. Sounds rough. Don't forget to save some litter for mayhem. I don't know. If it was me, I would just go out with a sump pump and drop a hose down in that thing and just take it over to the neighbor's yard and start pumping it out and say, "Woo, what's that smell?"
That's what I should have done.
Empty out that septic. So we all know what a septic is down here. So when you get out in these parts, you got to have one. But you know, believe it or not, here in my county, you can literally still, if you have your own farm and so much acreage, you can still let it run out from your right on top of the ground into your field.
Wow.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're fast enough, you can flush and run out the door and you can see it come out.
That's quite the race, Lou.
I'm just saying. I lived in an old farmhouse where you could do that. Honest, I'm telling the truth. Yes, you could.
Sounds like things could get a little messy.
Yeah. It was like a race for the Lincoln Logs. Oh my goodness. All right, that's enough. We're getting silly now. We don't have shows on CommuTube. He has a grouping of 3-minute clips. We're going to call those little, what do you call them?
I got nuggets.
Nuggets. Yeah, those are little nuggets. He says he calls them. I don't know about little nuggets, but somebody. See Page Field.
Seepage Field.
I know. But I called it C-Page because it's seepage. Yeah, C-Page. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, that's exactly what it is, Joe. We still have those. So, but anyway. All right, everybody. Oh, man, it's been a long one. And I am looking forward to Thanksgiving dinner. Turkey and all the fixings. So I know
I'm cooking for 20.
Oh, well, that's too many. But I know hopefully most of you will come back in for Monday's show. And if not, just in case you're traveling or you're having people over early, I just want to say happy Thanksgiving. I hope you enjoy your Thanksgiving with your family. And if you're one of those families that you're not together because of politics, set those politics aside and have dinner with your family and get together, gather around the table and give your thanks and say your prayer for everything that you have. Be thankful. That's what it's all about. And then we have the birth of Christ not far around the corner. So we got a lot going on this time of year. So be thankful for what you have all the way around, and especially your family, because that's all that really matters is love and family. So hang on to them. And anyway, if we don't see you Monday night, again, take care. Enjoy your Thanksgiving and your holidays and all that. We'll see you Monday. And then after that, again on December 2nd, which is a Monday as well for the next show. So God bless each and every one of you. Chris, thank you so much for joining us again tonight. Hopefully you do it more in the future as well whenever you can. Gina, thank you. Everyone in the chat, thank you. It's been real. You guys make it very, very fun. Really appreciate each and every one of you. So take care, my friends. God bless each and every one of you. And God bless this great republic we call the United States of America. Good night.
You've been listening to Lou's Views, where woke ideology gets destroyed. If you too are tired of the woke mob telling you how to think and live, then visit our website at lousviewspodcast.com. Start following Lou on X at Lou's Show and watch the Lou's Views podcast on Rumble. Thanks for listening to Lou's Views.
Government is not the solution to our problem. government